Ha! Huh.
The big screen! Okay, hey fellas, what's up? How are we doing? This is another episode of The Big Screen. This is our first ever movie talk session, and I'm here right now with a friend, a partner, a colleague, and Marshall. What's up? How are you?
Yeah,
how are we doing?
I'm fine. Good morning, first off, and of course, I think when you're talking movies really with someone like Lucas, of course, you have to enjoy every session, definitely.
Okay, so this is going to be crazy. This is going to be insane. And we are going to be talking about something right now that has been bugging me for a very long while, actually, because each time I think about it, I just, I feel, wow. I am just caught up in the web, and that we're going to be talking about Disney. Like, okay, fellas, you know that you've probably heard the word Disney before. You've probably heard of movies that they've been involved with. If you know anything about the Lion King, you know that Disney is a power to contend with. And we today, I just, a couple of days back, I became intrigued about what Disney might actually have, like how far their influence could spread, because they are such a big company, and they have all these movies and franchises under their names. And I think what really brought this idea to my head, and what really brought about this talk right now, is the fact that they are involved in a couple of comic franchises, which we will be talking about later on our podcast show today. And for those of you who do not know out there, Walt Disney's actual name was actually, what did you call it? Walt
Disney.
Yeah, you heard him. Walt Disney. The company started as Disney Brothers Cartoon Studio from 1923 to 1926. Then it became the Walt Disney Studios from 1926 to 1929, and then Walt Disney Productions from 1929 to 1986, and then from 1986 till now, it has been known as the Walt Disney Company. But this actually started in Kansas.
Yeah, definitely Kansas, Missouri City. And when the name Walt Disney comes along, it's not really what the average Joe would think, or where the average Joe would think Walt Disney would have really started the Walt Disney Company, and starting everything. Alice's Wonderland. A lot of people associate Walt Disney's starting with Mickey Mouse. But that was actually a much later thing, And I think the idea of Alice's Wonderland and them Oswald the Lucky Rabbit was definitely the big one, I think, for Walt Disney, because it was in conjunction with MJ Winkler Productions, and it was looking for all the world that it could actually
did all that. I always thought the mouse was the thing.
Yeah, exactly. I also thought the mouse was the thing until I started reading a lot about Disney, and I discovered, wait, hold on. Alice's Wonderland, not Alice in Wonderland. Alice's Wonderland was actually the first one when it comes to Walt Disney's production, and I think that was really the start of everything. But of course, that's one thing that happens with business and even with life in general. You work with some partners, and then they want to outsmart you. Maybe that's what happened with Sony and Disney. We can't see, but of course, with MJ Winkler Productions and Disney and Walt Disney, that actually happened, because MJ Winkler Productions, they duped Walt, and he felt cheated. He couldn't come.
So they actually duped Walt out of Oswald the Rabbit and Alice's Wonderland.
Yeah, quite surprisingly. And I think if they had a full knowledge of what would have actually happened with Walt Disney's company, they would, in hindsight, have not decided to dupe Walt. But then it happened, and Walt decided to go on his own independent production. He created Mortimer Mouse.
Yeah,
Mortimer Mouse. Yeah, I'm talking of Mortimer Mouse. His wife Lillian didn't like the name Mortimer, and then she felt Mickey would have sounded better. And I think for every movie lover in the world, I think for the good of for world peace, I think Mortimer Mouse definitely would not have sounded nice. But of course, Mickey Mouse is what it is, and Mickey Mouse definitely was what stood. Created his first independent one, and that was really Walt Disney from the start. Mickey Mouse.
literally proven the point that behind every great man is an even greater woman. So that is just insane. And I just keep looking at all this history and seeing how far he has come. I believe the Walt Disney Company is over 100 years old now, and Walt Disney himself, Walt D. Signey, Walt D. Signey has been dead for a long time now. And what exactly is it that is making them such a power to contend with right now? Like, how have they come into such relevance? Because like right from when I was born, I always heard the name Walt Disney. I came up watching cartoons. Like the first ever Walt Disney cartoon I watched, and that was Beauty and the Beast. And then I saw The Lion King, and then I went in and saw Alice in Wonderland, and all of these Thank you, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and all of that, Cinderella, and they were already big at the time, but it didn't seem like they would be what they are right now, because all of a sudden it feels like everywhere I go to I hear Disney. So what is this whole relevance thing about? How did they come into this?
Yeah, I think we can actually divide it into segments, because for Walt Disney, it was animal characters all along, animal thingies, because that was more like what he loved, and he felt that was easier to get the attention of the general public. And we're not talking 2019, we're talking 1923. So it was a different era, a different mindset at the time. So started with, of course, with animation characters. And when you have animals like Mickey Mouse was like today's Iron Man. It was like the Uber character for all of the big movies.
I like that.
That was what Mickey Mouse was for Walt Disney at the time. And starting very quickly with what he did with Mickey Mouse, the Steamboat Willie. Of course, regular watchers or modern viewers of Walt Disney would not really appreciate what Steamboat Willie was, because it was in black and white.
Yeah, I remember that, with that whole whistle.
Yeah. You remember the tune. It was a different setting from today's Uber colored movies. Technicolor, you're getting it in Blu-ray. It was a different era, and moving from that point to stay relevant, he had to change his tack, and that was when he introduced the animations, the Alices in Wonderlands, the Cinderellas, the Snow White and Seven Dwarfs, and even Aladdin, because a lot of the movies we actually have now are recreations. They've had them in the past, and then they have been recreated from black and white into color, from animations to humans, because when it really became the big one was when the Warner Bros came out with their own DC Comics. Of course, DC Detective Comics, they started their own comic books and they changed it into movies. Now, when you have movies, there's this thing that comes with watching a superhero. Everyone dreams to become a superhero.
Yeah, I definitely dream of becoming a superhero.
What would be your superpower?
I have not thought about it yet, but
everyone wants to be a superhero. Basically, and that was why we all loved the superhero thingy. Getting to see the Supermans, and that was what really pushed Disney into trying out their own superhero comics, because at the time we had the Green Brothers who were writing these comics, and for the average American kid, comic books were the in thing then. It was not in today's world where we had the social medias, where we had the fantasy games, where we had the 2K20s or the 2K19s. It was very, very different, and that was what I think the really big thing for Disney, because as it spread out, it became so easy for them to actually attract the young viewers and make the empire a lot bigger than it currently was when it started.
Marvelous point, Marshall, because to add to that, I feel like with what you were saying about Disney starting out with all those cartoons, and what really made them relevant, one of the things that made them relevant, apart from what you said, was the fact that they really they started to add value to a lot of cultures. They started to diversify into people's cultures. We had Aladdin from the Middle East. We had Cinderella from England, from the English. We had Snow White. different cultures. We had the Gypsy culture, like with Notre Dame. Even the Lion King, came down to Africa. So they really diversified.
Fun fact.
Yeah,
Simba is lion in Swahili.
Can you imagine that? I legit did not know that. I swear down, So they started to diversify, and when you diversify into people's cultures like this, it kind of creates value for those cultures.
Yeah, definitely.
You are able to relate with the people who are watching those movies, those cartoons, and all of that. So I think right from time, that is one of the reasons. Why Disney has become was so relevant back then. But to be able to still do that, because right now they are not the only ones going into that. Netflix has been diving into a lot of cultures in recent years. So to be able to stay relevant is such a major problem, and they have not just thrived, they are actually the best at it. I was really surprised the other day when I found out that they are involved in so many companies. Like they have. So how did that? What? What?
It actually came as a surprise to me when I discovered that when you're talking about Disney, it's gone past the cartoons, it's gone past the animations, it's gone past the movies,
way past.
It's getting into every facet of life. Like literally, we could call them the Facebook of the movie industry, because the same way Facebook have taken over WhatsApp, Instagram, and literally
Snapchat,
taking
and all
over
of that.
everything. Wanting to get a bite out of every single social media app that is getting produced by the day. So I think that was really what Disney tried to become, and with every acquisition, they're getting very close and even closer to getting that reality, because getting Pixar in 2006 for $7.4 billion, getting Disney Pixar together. Pixar, Toy Story, Pixar,
Toy Story
Moana,
is big.
Pixar Incredibles.
Incredibles.
Pixar Monster Inc. So getting that and not being satisfied.
And these
with
are
Pixar.
all major hits.
Major
even
movies,
till today.
major movies. Not being satisfied with Pixar, getting Marvel. Marvel.
Come on, like that's Marvel we're talking about.
Marvel is no longer a name; it's now a pronoun. It's now an article. You have to say the Marvel, because that's what encapsulates what Marvel has now become. Of course, we all know the MCU, the End Games, and everything. Not only Marvel. Marvel was actually bought in 2009 for $4.2 billion, and then
can you imagine that
they got Lucasfilm. Are you doing Lucasfilm?
Unfortunately, no. Oh my God, no.
Okay. they got Lucasfilm in 2012 for $4.05 billion. Lucasfilm of Star Wars. You know how big Star Wars has actually become, and I think that was when people should have stood up to take notice of what exactly Disney were trying to do with the acquisition of movies. And then last few months ago, March 2019, they made the biggest of them all, the big one, the blockbuster acquisition of 21st Century Fox. Not only their studios, in fact the TV company, in what has actually become a $71.3 billion acquisition.
And you mentioned that earlier, Marshall, before we came on this, and I was so shocked. My rockets were so blown. That is when I heard the figures, because the figures we're talking about now are figures one can only dream of. I don't even dream of these kind of figures. And you're telling me that a movie company that started out so humbly, so low,
being duped,
and right now no one knows who Wrinkler is.
Yeah, exactly.
No one knows who JJ Wrinkler is. Nobody even cares who they are, because in the end, it's all about who stays relevant. It's all about who's able to be the top dog. And I think that is a psychological thing. It's a mental thing, because you have to be able to relate to, like I said, relate to people, make them feel value for what you are offering them, so that they always come back to you year in, year out, day in, hour out. They're always making references to you, because frankly speaking, I run the show The Big Screen on Futa Radio 93.1 FM, and I did the top 5 countdown a couple of episodes back. I did the top 5 countdown on the top 5 biggest movie production companies. I mentioned 21st Century Fox, not knowing that they were about to be acquired by the company we're just talking about now. And in the notable mentions, I remember saying that Disney was another production company to watch out for. Disney should have been like the number one.
Yeah, literally. Because when you have Pixar, you have Marvel, you have Lucasfilm, and then you go on to add 20th Century Fox, which has now become 21st Century Fox. Literally, that's blowing every other person out of the water.
And the big thing is these production companies have all made blockbuster hits in their own rights.
Yeah.
I mean, like you earlier mentioned, Pixar made blockbuster history last year with Incredibles 2.
Yep.
You know, and previously with Incredibles 1, as well as Toy Story, the Toy Story series, Moana, Monster Inc., and all of that. And then Lucasfilms with Star Wars. That's big. That's
literally
major.
Star
That is literally insane. And then we have 20th Century Fox with Godzilla and the likes of all that.
Avatar.
Deadpool. Come on, Avatar. That's James Cameron's Avatar.
Nat Geo Network.
The second highest grossing movie of all time before Avengers Endgame, which is still owned by Disney. So what are we talking about here? These guys are really big, Marshall.
Yeah, and talking about things they've actually acquired, we cannot just fail to mention the networks they own, because they own ABC and then they own ESPN. Now,
what?
How do you own ABC?
Did you just say that? Did you just say
ESPN?
Did you just say that? Did you just say that
Wait.
Disney owns ABC
Yes.
and ESPN?
Yes,
You know
you heard right.
Sorry to cut you off, Marshall. This reminds me. This really I feel really stupid right now, because my father would always tell me then, don't mind these politicians. These politicians, they all friends. In the background, whether it's this party or this party, at the end of the day, they're all somewhere sipping juice, sipping wine together, and laughing at your motherfuckers. So what he's saying right now is that ESPN, which is actually a TV network, and ABC, which is supposed to be a rival TV network, are actually owned by the same person.
Yep. Disney controls the
fair?
puppets. No, who cares? Who cares about fair?
Are they playing us?
When you can own Marvel and Pixar, and then you're adding 20th Century Fox, at that point, who cares about being fair? Like,
God damn,
these guys really added Hulu. They added A&E. Like, the point now is
Hulu.
Where exactly are Disney going to stop? Because the way it's going, they could literally acquire CNN and BBC.
I'm telling you, I would not be surprised.
Because right now, everything, I wouldn't actually be surprised if they went out and bought Warner Bros. for the purpose of buying it, and then end their own franchise. Because right now, Disney are trying to acquire all of the movie rights we've all loved, because in 2029, in 2035, you want to watch Avatar, guess what? You have to use Disney Plus. You want to watch what happened in this game and that game.
Like The Simpsons, for instance, which is owned by Fox.
Yeah, you have to watch ESPN Plus, or you have to watch Disney Plus. So everything you want to watch. Okay, you want to stream a game in 2042, you have to use Hulu live streaming services. So everything, every facet of our entertainment life right now, like it or not, Disney are laughing to the bank.
It's controlled by these niggas.
Yeah.
It's controlled by Disney. Okay, and that is so incredible, because movies have always been a big part of my life.
Yep,
They've influenced me. They're the reason why the both of us are here right now.
Yep.
And there's movies that once you mention them, they spark certain memories. And wow, Pirates of the Caribbean, owned by Disney. Star Wars, owned by Disney. And Toy Story, owned by Disney. And now the viewing rights to Avatar, owned by Disney. This is just crazy. And I'm even a particular documentary channel, Nat Geo World.
Yep. And funny thing about Nat Geo World is, for those who grew up watching Nat Geo World, you discover that it was too stereotyped. And I think one of the reasons why Disney have acquired Nat Geo World was probably to change it, because when you have a company like Nat Geo World and you have a company like Walt Disney have always been an avid follower of animals, right from their Dumbo days, right from their Mickey Mouse days. So I think the way we look at animals, especially under the Nat Geo World umbrella, will definitely change, because for a company who have always adored animals, using them as one of the big characters in their movies, I think we'll see a radical Nat Geo Wild. And if we're judging by what we've seen from the way Disney have used Marvel, have used Pixar, I think we're set for a new adventure when it comes to watching Nat Geo Wild, because not only would it make Nat Geo Wild a lot more interesting to watch, they will give us a different light to look at these things. I honestly believe that.
Yeah, and even going on and judging by the photorealistic representation of the latest Lion King that was released 19th of July now, by Jon Favreau, that Jon Favreau directed it. It gave me the feeling that I was watching a Nat Geo Wild documentary, and I feel like this is all still part of Disney, just going in there, trying to connect with every single person, no matter what, whatever you belong to, sports, whether it's news, whether it's filming, whether it's documentary, whatever it is, cartoons,
even music.
Yeah, I was so sure that they own a couple of record labels, and I was like, whoa.
Really, what even surprised me about everything was that means literally they control everything, because not only do they produce it, they produce the music for their own movie. So literally they don't do any paying,
because
and we do all the paying.
Beyonce did the recording for the Lion King at the Walt Disney Studios. At the Walt Disney owned studios, so it's not like it's they had to contract it out to someone or anything. So they're making the money for themselves, like the money keeps rotating with them, and we just keep helping with that rotation. We are part of the Disney cycle.
To the bundles.
You have you have the hydrogen cycle, you have the water cycle, and you also have the Disney cycle, which we are a part of. So that is just insane. And now they've, I don't know what I'd call it, in latest happenings now, latest in recent events. I wouldn't really call it a setback. I don't know whether it's a setback for them or for the people involved with them. But a story broke just yesterday about Kevin Feige parting ways with Sony, returning to Disney, and Disney letting go of the Spider-Man franchise. Like the fuck?
I was equally surprised, because when it comes to Kevin Feige, I think the big mistake Sony are making is that they think what happened with the Spider-Man franchise was equally their own making, which, if we're being honest, is really not. Because if we judge by what we've seen from what Kevin Feige has individually done for Disney and Marvel, there are two different things with what Sony themselves have been able to do with their own Spider-Man franchise. Because Spider-Man franchise was on its own a successful franchise, but it was not uber successful the way it has been since it jumped alongside MCU's Spider-Man franchise. I think that was the big mistake Sony actually made, because in an ideal world, if you're going to portray your own Spider-Man, how then do you continue from the story Kevin Feige has brought on? So definitely they have to bring up their own stories, and I wouldn't like to be wearing the shoes Kevin Feige has just left behind, because you've got
really big shoes.
Big shoes.
Those are really big shoes.
Trust me. And I think one mistake Sony are also making is that they're always seeing everything from the Sony angle. They're not looking at it from the bigger picture, because if you're looking at it from the bigger picture, Marvel have been, I don't want to use the words.
If they were looking at it from the bigger picture, I feel like Sony would have been able to ride the wave.
Marvel actually even being honest or being dependable. Dependable is actually not the word I'm trying to use right now, but then giving it a 50-50 bargaining. Yeah, we understand that Sony owns the Spider-Man franchise, but then the biggest successes that Sony have had has come when they worked in tandem with Marvel and Disney.
True.
Now that they are breaking apart, that means they are literally selling off all of the good work they've done, because now that you have to deal without a Kevin Feige, and you have probably or maybe have to deal without Tom Holland, we might be seeing a return to those
dark days of Mordor.
Definitely. I'm sure that's not what Spider-Man lovers would want to see.
Exactly.
You've always loved, recent watchers now, because those who watched Spider-Man, those of us who saw the Tobey Maguire days, and we're seeing the
really appreciate these sunny days now.
We're seeing the light. It's like being brought from darkness into
the light.
marvelous light. So I think that's one thing Sony are not saying, because they are being blinded by the profits. Yeah, we understand that Disney are a bigger company, and so would want to think 50-50 is a probably more understandable cut as against what Sony would rather want to do, because Sony would want to literally have the rights or a cut of every movie Spider-Man appears in, and of course he has appeared in the Avengers Endgame, Civil War, Civil War,
and every
Endgame,
other
every other Avengers or every other MCU major movie,
since then.
That's one thing I think Sony are really getting wrong, because it's an association. I'm working with you on this movie, not on all the movies. One of your characters get to appear, and that's where I think Sony actually getting it wrong. And now you're trying to replace Kevin Feige. Guess what? Kevin Feige has made 23 blockbuster movies in 10 years.
Not one of them is a flop.
Not one single one of them has flopped.
No single one is a
like,
flop.
Even the Steven Spielbergs, even the Peter Jacksons.
They
didn't have they didn't have this kind of record. So for Sony to actually let Kevin Feige go, they must have a damn good reason that we have someone else who can actually step into Kevin Feige's shoes. I would if actually Sony.
That's like creating a Rambo movie without Rambo.
Yeah, like it's like trying to win the championship without Michael Jordan.
That is crazy.
It doesn't happen.
I love that comparison. That is actually
it doesn't
nasty
happen.
comparison.
It literally doesn't happen. So when you're trying to do that, if speaking honestly, if Sony actually comes up with someone who would give Sony 10 movies, straight movies, that would be box office blockbusters without flopping, I think I'll tip my hat off to them, literally, because it's going to be a very, very difficult one to pull off.
That is crazy. Going on from here on out, we will not be, except things change.
Definitely.
We will not be seeing Spider-Man in any MCU related movie, and that is so sad. But not for Disney. I mean for Sony. So it's crazy. It's really, really nasty, the amount, the vast resources available to Disney, and what they might just own. Like we haven't even begun to scratch the surface. But trust me, as the big screen progresses, as this podcast continues to air, whatever we find out, Marshall and I will bring to you at the click of a subscribe button once you are subscribed to our YouTube channel. Okay, so that's enough.
Even aside from what Disney own, Disney are even trying to branch out now, because they recently acquired a $650 million New York real estate, and that was surprising because back then when the Disneyland was going to be built, they had to Walt Disney, now not a day, because then it was still Walt Disney trying to expand his Disney franchise. He had to register companies under fake names so you could acquire those properties, of course, where Disneyland now sits in Florida. But right now in New York, going all massive, spending $650 million, I literally can't wait to see what happens when they're done with the completion of everything.
At the end of the day, Walt Disney might own some countries.
Yeah, maybe.
Walt Disney might just own you. You watching this right now,
yes,
Walt Disney might just own you. That is insane. So Walt Disney owns that much land in the Big Apple.
That's even what's amazing. The fact that it's not just in any random low market. The Big Apple itself, New York,
that is
the heart of literally entertainment capital alongside Los Angeles, of course. I think that's really where the big thing is for Disney right now.
So fellas, that is just mighty insane and crazy, not to mention almost impossible to think of. But these are the facts as they are breaking, and we are giving it to you right now, right here on the big screen. Marshall, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show with me. I remain Lucas the Jew, Lucas _D _Jew on Instagram, and Lucas Somnia on Twitter. Marshall.
Well, I'm unlike Lucas. I maintain the same handle for Twitter and Instagram. It's @Capleto.
So
do give me a follow.
That's basically it. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe if you like what you're seeing on right here. Next week we'll bring you another marvelous topic. No pun. No pun intended. We'll bring you another marvelous topic that we will be discussing right here on the big screen. This is the big screen, and you are tuned in. Stay tuned.